Yo, champion making. So I thought I'd do something just a little bit different this time around and make one of these tier lists for the Pokemon Mainline series. So I can see immediately a couple of the more recent ones are missing. So I guess this is just a little bit outdated. I'll still just chat about them and maybe again we'll talk just a little bit about some of the non-mainline games in the series like Snap and Mystery Dungeon and stuff like that. Right, so first thing to talk about, where is it? Well, start with red. I personally have blue first of all. I am gonna put Gen 1 in the A tier. And I know that's kind of like middle of the pile here, but let's remember, A won the alphabet race, so it's still pretty good. Look, there's a reason there are Gen 1ers. It was a very, very strong first title that just set this really solid mold of, alright, your MacGuffin is, you're going to become champ. How are you going to become champ? Well, you're going to beat the Elite Four. How are you going to beat the Elite Four? Well, you've got to get all the badges. It did like such a good job of setting out that sort of goal and guideline that, I mean, it struggled to break it since. It's like that good of a motivator. And then it didn't hurt that, you know, I made those 150 pokes. Everybody fell in love with them and bought all the cards and plushies and everything to do with them. So that's Gen 1. That's Gen 1. Now, there's no need to talk about like like there's no difference between red and blue. I mean, maybe if there is some sort of like strategic advantage to whichever Pokemon are available in which version, but that's so unlikely that I don't think it's going to come up. The tertiary games, though, I will talk a bit about because they tend to have like just a little something extra about them, some reason to revisit them. And I'm going to bump this one up a whole grade to A+. And it's all to do with just this one tiny feature, which is Pikachu, unfortunately only Pikachu, follows you around if he's the first in your party. And you can just quickly turn around and see his reaction, and he starts out hating you, and then he slowly grows to like you. And it just does such a good job of establishing that, like, hey, these are actually creatures that you're, like, living beings that you're on an adventure and a journey with. And like, it was such a beloved feature that when they brought it back in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, people went wild for it. You know, it's something that they keep trying to work into later titles. I think they've realized with stuff like camping and stuff like that, that yeah, people want to feel like they have a bond with these guys. So yeah, that was a really good feature. I'm gonna bump it up a whole thing just for that, just for recognizing like how important, even though it's a small mechanic, like the implications of it are quite big. Gen 2 was not Heart Gold, sorry, it was just regular gold and silver, and ooh, this one is a tough one. We'll put an A+ again, and I do kind of think that this is going to be like a top heavy list when I get through all of these. They did a really, really solid job of capturing environment in Johto, much more than they did in Kanto. Like, it's got a real kind of personality to that area, and the fact that then you get this post-game where you get to play all of Kanto as well, it's like, man, that's amazing. Like, that's so much bang for your buck. That's incredible. I think that's probably all I've got to say about it. Because we will talk a little bit further when we talk about the remakes. What was the tertiary then? It was Hardcore. Right, yeah, it was Crystal. And I'm going to be honest, I can't remember there being much of a distinction. I'm almost inclined to drop it down to just on the fact that, you know, it almost has less of a reason to exist if it doesn't add anything significant. But because I can't remember one way or another whether or not it does, you know, it's because I can't remember that I'm inclined to think, well, it doesn't then, but I could just be wrong. Because Crystal's the only one that I play, because I lost my copy of Silver, so I can't remember there being any massive leap in quality or like a reason to buy Crystal. But I mean, maybe it is there because for some reason it's the most valuable card, so maybe there is something on it, I don't know. We will just leave that there. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, but I can't remember there being anything significant about Crystal. Gen 3. Gen 3 was Ruby and Sapphire. Ruby and Sapphire. I think that's where we're going to start. Dropping it down slightly. I don't know, maybe I'll be like revisiting and like rejigging some of these around as I go on, but Ruby and Sapphire, it had a very good like Rocket clone with Team Magma and Team Aqua. They were a little campy and a little fun, but they were like a serious threat, and that was really cool. That was a really good balancing act that they really managed to nail. Groudon is a huge fan favorite legendary. You know, they've obviously nailed his design. Kyogre, not so much, unfortunately. They were a fine game. I think at this point the main sort of the main pull of the games was already starting to get a little bit tired with the becoming the champ kind of thing, and that's why that they introduced and so successfully executed the Team Magma and Team Aqua dispute was important, because I think at this point it was already starting to get a little played out with just the sort of base Pokemon game. Emerald version though, that goes straight into S, and the reason for that is, as I mentioned before in a previous video, oh man, the post game in this is massive, but more than that, it's like super significant. Not in terms of like lore or anything like that. It's just the sense that it's like, oh, okay, cool, you become champ. What do you do next? Well, you sort of go on this adventure where you encounter all these super strong legendary Pokemon, and it's like, yeah, that is kind of the adventure that you would go on after you're the champ. Like, it does a really good job of making you feel like a badass. And like I said, it was just a lot of bang for your buck as well. Like, if you were ever going to pick between the three at the time, yeah, Emerald. It sort of validated the tertiary system in that it had so much to it, and yeah, it was just leagues above Ruby and Sapphire. Around about this time we had Fire Red and Leaf Green, and well, before I put it on anywhere on the list, let's just have a quick jab out Red and Green. So these came out for the GBA, and they were the first remakes, obviously, and there was nothing to them really. They were completely superfluous. Obviously the graphics were slightly better, but that's about it. And I mean, and that was about it. Even when it came to other remakes, they almost like had an intrinsic validity to them in that you could you couldn't play the original games on modern hardware anymore. So it's like, well, this is how you play it on. You don't have your Game Boy anymore. Cool, you can play this. Now the problem the Fire Red and Leaf Green had was that they were on the GBA, and the GBA was still backwards compatible all the way to the Game Boy. So if you had Red, you could play that on the same device that you play Fire Red on. So there just wasn't a reason for these. So I am going to pop Red and Green in the bum tier. And I made the bum tier with only a specific 2 games in mind, and so maybe I'll have to make like a bum plus for these. But for now, they can make their way, they can make themselves comfortable in bum. What was next? So that was Gen 3. So Gen 4. Ooh. Pearl, Diamond. Down to B? See, this was the difficult thing about putting like Ruby and Sapphire in B+, because I don't know, maybe they belong in A. Like, there still was good stuff in... No, okay, this is fine. I mean, the letters don't really mean anything, it's just their relation to one another, that's all that this tier list means. So, yeah, absolutely. Pearl and Diamond, a little bit worse again, and... I like Pearl and Diamond. A lot of people are not fussed about them. And... I think I remember that time in life. I think I don't understand why. Which, we were the first sort of generation of Pokemon kids, and when these came out, enough time had passed that we were now teenagers, and we were too cool for kid stuff. I mean, we still bought it and we still played it. I had both of them. I had Platinum as well, and I managed to lose that. I managed to lose all 3, but I thought that they were okay. They were fine. They weren't bad games. They weren't bad Pokemon games. The underground feature was a little bit weird. It was a whole lot of nothing, really. I mean, it was a little bit fun excavating the stuff, but it wasn't. It was much of nothing, and. Again, it's where we saw things getting just a little bit out of control with the power creep of the legendaries, because, alright, by the time we've reached Ruby and Sapphire, it's like land, earth and sky, okay, that's fine, but then it becomes time and space, and then with the tertiary you got Arceus and Jirachi, and they're in control of like everything and nothing, and it's a little bit silly. It's a little bit silly because obviously they can't maintain that power creep, as we'll see in later games. So, yeah. These were fine. These were perfectly fine games. I had fun with them, and I because it's not on the list, I do want to make a case for the Switch remakes, which I remember everyone being very, very hard on, and. Again, I mean, it almost feels like the lost generation, unfortunately, Gen 4. Like, both times it's just released at really bad times. I think there was a lot of Pokemon fatigue going on a couple of years back when Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond came out, and the thing is, it actually was like a pretty decent remake. They just did a really bad job of selling it in the game itself, because the art style, there was nothing wrong with the art style. You can say about any art style, it's like, oh, well, you don't like it, well, other people do. Didn't love it, I thought it was fine, I got used to it more than anything else as time went on, so let's not make a fuss about it. The walking animation was super weird, and obviously, like, you start out with just the ability of walking out the running shoes of the bike, so like they front loaded really badly, because actually what that game had that was really, really amazing was the stuff that people have actually been asking for a really long time. The battle animations weren't like groundbreaking, but they were probably the best that the series has ever seen. And the battle backs especially were absolutely stunning, and like the reflections in the water and stuff like that. I was like, man, this is really in depth. But I think already by that point people had decided, look man, I don't like this game. Like, I didn't like the original. I don't like a couple of things that are right in my face about the remake, so I'm just dropping it. I'm not going to pay attention to any of the good stuff that was on offer in Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond. So if I had that on the list, I probably would bump that up to like B+. Right, Gen 5. Like I spoke before, Black and White, personally, I really, really like them. Was that the biggest the decks ever got to? Can't remember. Certainly was a lot. There was like 550 or 600 Pokemon at that point, and they were all available to catch in one way or another. And you know, it had that town feature. That was really, really cool. Or like the unique area to each. It's like one it was a city, one it was a forest, and the more active you were, basically, the more that little community thrived and made stuff available for you. That was kind of neat. I mean, maybe I'm letting nostalgia hit me too hard here. When I'm trying to think about stuff that's great about it, is like, can I really say that it was better than Ruby or Sapphire? My enjoyment of it was higher, but because again, it had a really good, and this is a parallel I suppose to Ruby and Sapphire, it had a really good Team Rocket clone. N was a really, really charismatic leader, and you know, he made good philosophical points, and yeah, I don't know. You know what, it's my list, so I'm gonna put him in A. Black and White 2, I never played because I thought that they were just going to be more of the same. I didn't realise they were going to be like a significant enhancement to Black and White. I know they're super expensive and I'll probably never play them. Apparently N's story gets significantly developed. So it's probably enough to be A+. Has some sort of like fusion mechanic of Zekrom or Reshiram. There was a third one, wasn't there? I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, I better leave it because obviously I don't know if it is better or worse. Around about the same time then we had the Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes, and I guess since they are obviously slightly better than Silver and Gold, that we are going to have to recognise that by bumping them up a little bit. It's just a really solid remake. Like I said, it had the little feature of now all of your Pokemon walk behind you, whoever's first in your party. That's really nice. And if you get like a big old boy like Groudon, he takes up like 4 tiles. It's really cool. It had sort of like forwards compatibility where it had like Pokemon from future gens in there. That's about it. Oh, I mean, we can mention the Pokewalker. The Pokewalker was, again, it was much of nothing. It was like not a bad idea, and it's probably what led to Pokemon Go, but it's much of nothing. It doesn't hurt that it exists, but it doesn't really add too much to your Pokemon experience, or it didn't in my case. Right, so 3DS. Oh, we missed out the third tier, Platinum, for Diamond and Pearl, and this one can go up to B+. I'm kind of almost tempted to put up to A. Just again, because this was a really solid tertiary with all the extra content that it added with Jirachi. And yeah, that's enough to say about that. It was just a good bit of extra stuff. Guess we've done Gen 5, and we've done the remakes, so Gen 6. Gen 6 was X and Y? Where would I put these two? Yeah, okay, A+, A+. This was, I mean, this was a really strong entry, this series. As I mentioned before, I don't want to talk too much about it, I guess I don't want to repeat myself. The Mega Evolutions were a good idea. It was a bad idea in the sense of it was such a gimmick that every future game felt their need to have a gimmick. And so the next thing they would do was create Z-moves, which were just terrible, and then the next ones were Dynamaxing and whatever they call it. I can't remember what it's called in Scarlet and Violet, but again, those two are they're just lazy forms of Mega Evolution. So it's like they can't even be bothered to. They're like, we've got to have a gimmick. Well, what can the gimmick be? I don't know. It's like, well, don't put the gimmick in then. But they feel compelled to because of X and Y. So in a sense, it raised the bar, and they've never been able to fulfill that bar, but keep putting the bar back into future entries. I don't know, but that's not the fault of X and Y themselves. Mega Evolutions was a good idea. I can't remember the name of the area now. Was it Unova? I don't know. But yeah, this one, based on France, again, it was a particularly well-liked area, as it should be. It was a good-looking game. It was substantially better looking than the 3D that was in black and white. And yeah, just a good couple of games. Some of my favourites, some of a lot of people's favourites. At this time then, we had the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes, and these were again, these are A+ or S right here. Yeah, they probably are a little better than X and Y even, because they're made with the same engine, but they had like all these little extra features to do with actually like sneaking up and catching Pokemon, which, let's face it, is actually the name of the game. And it tends to be like an underserved facet of the whole Pokemon design. And they still had everything good about Ruby and Sapphire. Again, the X and Y, as gorgeous as they were, and as good as the battling system was, you know, their Team Rocket clone was nothing special. Their championship story was nothing special. The legendaries again were nothing special. So what was great about Ruby and Sapphire were sort of just enhanced with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Right. After that, oh god. Now here's where I made the tier for. So, Pokemon Sun and Moon are the absolute worst games by a substantial margin in in all of Pokemon. Like so, we've mentioned the lazy Z moves. It's just everything about the game. It obviously they tried to. I don't want to say reinvent the wheel because they didn't even do that, but they went for a new style for them, which was this full 3D thing. That's great. But they almost used that as an excuse for like really bad design for stuff like invisible walls and stuff like that. They were like, oh, but this is our first foray. And it's like, yeah, but we've had these full 3D experiences since like the 2000s, and like I said, you're not reinventing the wheel. You know those games exist. You know that those kind of problems have been steadily designed out with time. So why are they back again in your game? This is it's just a couple of bad games, to be honest. And then the Ultra Beasts as well. It's like, are they Pokemon? Are they not? It's just, oh god, it's bad. Again, it's it was like trying to do something new and big again, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. Like when you start to like talk about like Arceus and stuff like that, and the implications, particularly with Scarlet and Violet as well, with like their time traveling Pokemon, and again Arceus is effectively like a time traveling Pokemon, except also maybe it's a different dimension, and then also these Ultra Beasts come from a different dimension. Like everything is just really messy at this point in terms of like, if you were to have a national dex, what belongs on it? Like it's all crazy at this point. And again, this is really when it sort of got out of control with Sun and Moon with the Ultra Beasts. It did have the first evolving, I think it was the first evolving legendaries, and that was kind of cool. I do think the legendaries themselves, they are pretty nice. But that's about all I got, all the positive I've got to say about Sun and Moon. Yeah, they had the trials as well. I guess that was cool that they tried to do something a bit different, but just because they tried to do something different doesn't mean that they did it well, unfortunately. Yeah, I've said everything I want to say there. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I can't add this to this list because, again, I have such distaste for Sun and Moon that I was like, I'm not playing those. I do hear they're a little bit better, so again, perhaps would warrant a bum plus tier, but I can't imagine they're all that good. And that just brings us to the Switch titles now. So what came first was Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, and ooh, A or A plus? No, we're gonna put on. Do you know what? Actually, I might. Ooh, this is hard. I actually kind of inclined to bump it down, and I will say why. And I want to make clear that again, B plus is still a good score, right? Look, here's why these games are bad. First of all, what's good about them is they are a really, really good remake. They're gorgeous. The music is fantastic. And then you get to play the same adventure that you know and love and that you've played dozens and dozens of times over, and you get to do it again. The problem is the whole new reimagining of like how catching and leveling up works, and it's basically, as the name suggests, based on Pokemon Go, And the problem with that is when you catch Pokemon in Pokemon Go, your trainer levels up, and that makes sense because he's become a better trainer. He's gained experience in being a trainer. In Pokemon Let's Go, you catch Pokemon and your Pokemon level up. And it's like, what? Particularly since they weren't involved in fighting and weakening those Pokemon, so they didn't get any sort of like combat experience. It's very strange. I remember having like a few of these like design issues in my head when I was playing them. That's the one that jumps right out to me. But absolutely, they're worth your time. They are, like I said, they are gorgeous. They sound lovely, and they are fun. It's just, ooh boy, it was just a bad idea to change how the core mechanics of like battling and everything go on. Next up is Sword and Shield, and everyone is a bit of a downer on these games, and I think that's a bit unfair because it was basically the fan base saying, look, we expect this stuff by now, and then when they didn't get what they wanted, they went, this is bad. And it's like, no, it still was movement in the right direction. It's hard to say, because I kind of agree with the criticisms that were made, so I'm going to put it in B+, which is, yeah, come on, by now these Pokemon should have better voices, they should have better battle animations, they did have some voice acting in general, so like I said, there was progress made, and has since been backtracked on. Obviously Dexit was such a big deal, and then they kind of added the Pokemon back in as DLC, and that's a bit because they keep doing that, and I was like, ooh. When it happened, I was like, I see this causing problems in the future. I see this being like something that's going to keep happening, and it has. And yeah, like I said, there was a lot of drama about like the fact that they were just upscaled sprites and stuff from the 3DS games. Look, they look good, and frankly, if they planned ahead and made them like that pixel dense originally or whatever, then cool. Like, I don't see the problem there. Leon and Hop, they were annoying rivals. Almost as bad as the one from Sun. So yeah, B+ is fine, I guess. They could have maybe made like they're. I don't agree with everyone like that they're bad games. I think they're okay. I do think obviously we've seen better games come since, so I guess I can't put them higher. Speaking of the ones that are missing then, Arceus, I don't like Arceus, and that's a whole video. I think it's the most like overhyped tech demo in existence. Fortunately, I've sensed some stirring in the water, and people are starting to agree with me. That actually this was like an unfinished rush project. I keep meaning to like, I mean, if you use this point, it's basically irrelevant, but like break down the timeline of the development cycle and be like, look, they screwed you, here's how. You know, like, don't be hyped about this. This was a lazy effort, rushed out for money, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm not naive about like you know, these people are here to make products and make money, but unlike Pokemon Sword and Shield, where people were really hard about it, everybody just went wild for Sword and Shield, and sorry for Arceus, and I was like, dude, this This thing is like riddled with bugs, so much worse so than Scarlet and Violet. Like, anyway, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Point is, Arceus. I mean, I kind of would want to put that in Bum Plus as well. And then finally Scarlet and Violet, and then here we get a crazy thing again, where everyone is just completely inconsistent. They're very upset about the like graphical bugs that occur in it, but like they're fine in Arceus. If I had to put Scarlet and Violet somewhere, I'd probably put it in like A, at least. There was a lot that was good about Scarlet and Violet, and again, people just take a big poo on what was frankly like a pretty... It had a slow beginning, I'll give it that, and then the balancing was a bit all over the place, but in terms of like the scope of the development, like how far they've come in a couple of years, they have done a fantastic job. Scarlet was really good. It had good ideas about it. It had bad ideas, like I was saying, the time-traveling Pokemon, that's just a problem. Like, but no, you know, again, if we talk about like that final area that you reach at the end, like that's pretty damn cool. You get to ride around on your Pokemon. It is a bit crap when you do finally have him as a Pokemon, and then you have to keep like flicking between what kind of like mode he is. Well, it's like a whole bunch of button presses that it just shouldn't have made a fuss about it. I mean, I can see why, because otherwise you'd have effectively had like a 7 Pokemon team, but no, you could have just kept it as like a 6 Pokemon team, and even if he's out of your team, just have you be able to ride him like you've done all the way throughout the game. Or like, why would it matter if it's like a 7 Pokemon team anyway? Because like, you're so much stronger than everybody. It doesn't matter what Pokemon you use. I don't know, it's silly. But there was good stuff about Emerald. I thought actually it did a really good job of the selection of Pokemon that it made. And then of the new Pokemon, it had a good mixture. A lot of them were cute. I had a Flamingo, and I had a Dolphin that became a superhero, and that had like a whole unique mechanic that was cool. They had like Gen 1, like fake Gen 1 Pokemon that were like joke versions. They were really cool. Like, I don't know, man. I thought Silver and Violet, Scarlet and Violet were like the most fun I've had playing a Pokemon game, like just in terms of fun, that I've had in quite a while. So yeah, I'll say that. Oh my goodness, this is almost 40 minutes. Right, I won't go into the non-mainline stuff. I'm gonna have to call this here. Alright, cool. Thanks for sticking around this long. We'll talk Pokemon some other time.